Hi, I'm B. Today I'm going to paint a pumpkin patch on my face for a last-minute Halloween costume. As always, if you want to please the Pandaverse, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification button. Next week, I'm working on my very first Wreck This journal. I'm really nervous and you don't want to miss out. I decided to be a country pumpkin because this costume's focal point is on the face. Once I finish all my makeup, all I'll need to do is throw on some country clothes, grab my gardener's hat and a pumpkin, and I'm ready to go. To prep my face for painting, I used a matte makeup primer, a full coverage cream foundation, and Manic Panic's White Goth cream. To paint the pumpkins, I used acrylics. Please read this disclaimer. I used the colors of pure pumpkin orange, canary yellow, shamrock green, lime green, chocolate brown, and white. For my paintbrushes, I used a 10 out of 0 right tipped brush and a number 2 filbert tipped brush. Of course, I also had a cup of water in it and a paint palette, a rag to wipe the brushes off with, some Q-tips from my mistakes, a headband, an alligator clip. For the rest of my makeup, I used Beauty Glaze Over the Rainbow color palette, their red and orange eyeshadow. I also used General Brown eye pencil and Almay's Everyday Shadow, L'Oreal's Voluminous Million Lash Mascara, and some Carmex. I'm starting with a clean but normal looking face. It does have redness and zits, visible pores, wrinkles, you know, an average looking face. The first thing I had to do was get my hair out of the way. Otherwise, I was bound to get paint in my hair. Slick back hair is not my best look. Neither is whatever that was. Next, I put on my primer and I have to wait a couple minutes. And then I put on my mousse foundation. Look at that cute little ghost. I am so very pale. And I mean those lips. Don't worry, I'll fix them later. And the only thing this cute little ghost needs is more foundation. Don't worry, it's not going to go all over my face. I use the number 2 paintbrush to brush it under the general spots that the pumpkins and their leaves are going to sit. I want there to be 3 pumpkins on each side because once upon a time, an instructor told me that things are more aesthetically pleasing when you group them in 3s. When you're creating composition, does anyone else hear their instructors speaking encouraging words of wisdom? Don't do that. I did try a different pattern on the other side and I did like it more. This side had way too much negative space. This side was a more balanced ratio and it allowed for a better eye movement. Now I have to wait again. The hardest part about cream foundations is how long it takes for them to dry. I'm always trying to figure out a way to make it dry quicker. Yay, we're finally at the stage where I get to paint. We're done with the number 2 brush. From now on, we're only going to be using my tiniest little brush, the 10 over 0 brush that's got the filbert tip. And now I'm going to start painting in my pumpkin shapes. I start with a line down the middle of my pumpkin and then I add curved lines to either side to build out my pumpkin to the depth that I want. And then on the top, I just kind of add a few bumps or ridges to make a bumpy overall oval shape. I'm leaving white space where I plan to leave the stems and the leaves. And then I repeat it again and again and then again on the other side until all of my pumpkins have been painted. And then I go in for a second coat and a third. Next, I'm going to go in with a couple layers of yellow highlight. I chose to have my pumpkins patch light source on the right. So all of my highlights went on the top right side of the bumps of the pumpkin. The first layer is going to be fairly translucent and that's going to be a broader area. And then I'm going in with the second layer in a smaller area than the opaque yellow. So it kind of adds a gradual fade. The easiest way to add a basic yellow highlight to a pumpkin is just to create a loose M shape and adding a few extra dots or lines on the back pumpkin bumps as well. Now that the highlights are done, it is time for the... Yeah, I have no idea if you've guessed, but it's time for the lowlights. So I'm adding in the brown. Because that light source is on the right, my lowlights are going to go on the lower left side of each pumpkin. It's also going to show any sort of shading where leaves might be or that the stem might show a shadow. For this brown, you have to be careful. You need to water it down because if you don't water it down, it's going to look like, yeah, it looks really... Adding several layers of this watered down brown is going to give the pumpkin more natural looking shadows for these cartoon pumpkins on your cheeks, and that's super important, we all know. To add a very harsh shadow line, you don't have to water it down, but you will have to keep in mind that it's going to look more cartoony versus realistic. I went back in and put a layer of orange across where the brown was because the first layer of paint is always translucent in these brighter colors. So all it does is it tones down the brown where it was a bit too intense for my liking. Now it's time to go green. And add in those leaves. Some of the leaves I'm going to want behind the pumpkins, some I'm going to want in front of the pumpkins, so that way the composition can show a lot more depth and interest. Looking at either side, I've decided that I want to add the vines connecting the pumpkins. It looks really good with this grouping of 3, but with this side with a lot of negative space, I need to add in a few more leaves. By adding in these few more leaves, I'm trying to make it look more balanced. Next up is highlighting with the lime green. And of course, these highlights are all going to be on the upper right or where the light would hit if there was a shadow from the pumpkin. So now I'm checking my progress with my critical eye, as my instructor would say. Use that critical eye to see if I need to correct anything. And I decided that I need a baby pumpkin here. And if I'm adding one here, things are more aesthetically pleasing when you group them in 3s. Then I'm going to have to add 2 more here to make 2 groups of 3. Here's the before and after. This side looks so much better now that we've taken care of that extra negative space. My pumpkins need a little sparkle to their life, so I'm going to add in a white highlight anywhere where the sun is going to reflect off these pumpkins and leave a bright spot. The white highlight take these pumpkins from, aw, they're so cute, to, holy shrimp, that's cute. I love this look. It's so simple and so adorable, but if I were to do it again, there were some things that I would change. I would have added contouring when I was painting, so my skin didn't look so flat when I was done. I also would have recreated the 3 pumpkins with a balanced negative space on both sides, because the side with 6 pumpkins on it looks a bit cluttered. And I would have added extra low light. I'm missing some. It's a little basic. I could have just given it a little bit more contrast to make it really pop and to add a little pizzazz. My pumpkins are finished and looking so ducking cute, but it's time to complete the look, so I'm going to add in some final touches. I add in some cartoon freckles, I fix those lips, add in a simple eye makeup, and a very heavy sunburn blush. And now it's time to check out those final results. If you love this video and you want to see more face paint videos, leave a comment on what you want me to try to paint next. I'd love to see art inspiration, so if you want to tag me on Instagram, I would love to see your Halloween costumes or any sort of face painting that you have created. If you like this video, check out another one.